In this lesson, we're going to finish up our look at the Java standard tag library. So we've already looked at the core tag library in great detail, and then we had our first three parts of this four-part conclusion where we looked at formatting the SQL or SQL standard tag and the XML standard tag. So in this final lesson, we're going to look at the JSTL functions that can actually be used within expressions. These are predefined functions written for us to do some really neat things. Once again, if you haven't already, load the JSTL other predefined tag libraries.war to get this code. And so today what we're going to be looking at is the functions.jsp page. So we'll go ahead and make this larger. And once again, at the top, we need to add a tag library directive for the functions, which again is the functions URI namespace. And the prefix we'll use is fn for function. At the start of our code here, we're going to create a variable called testString, which is going to contain a capitalized JSTL. And then all the rest is very powerful. And we're going to do a bunch of string functions on these in our expressions. So that's why we're using a test string here. Our first one we're going to look at is contains. And just like if we were testing strings in regular Java code, we have the ability to test a string to see if it contains something. So here we're going to use the reference to the function contains, the test string that we're passing in, and the word powerful. So of course that'll be true. You note that it is an expression. And we start with function contains, and we don't need to put a $sign expression around the variable already inside the expression. So we're good there. Here we're just going to print out the actual string. Then we're going to say contains powerful is true if that test comes back true, which it will. Here we'll see contains ignore case. So we can already see, of course, like equals or equals ignore case. We have a contains or contains ignore case. So here we'll look for JSTL small, which of course only works because of the fact that we're ignoring the case. And we'll print that out that it's true. Just like any other string, we have index of. So index of, we're going to look for T. Capital T is the second index, JSTL, so 0, 1, 2. So we expect that to come back with 2, and it will just print out the number 2. So we should see index of T equals 2. And we have length. Length of test string, of course, is going to be a function for length, and we'll just pass in the string, and that should give us a number as well. And we have a substring, which we can pull out indexes. So here we got test string from 8 to 23. If you want to look in more detail, there's a substring after, a substring before. So you can use those functions as well. And our 2 lowercase and 2 uppercase, which we can use to change the case of our entire string. So once again, these are just some of the more common ones that we might encounter. There are plenty more functions you might want to look into that you can already use. And if you're very astute, you might be thinking, when we worked with expression language, we didn't talk about functions. Why didn't you tell me about functions then? Well, we're building our knowledge. And here we have our tag library, which is what brings these functions into play. They wouldn't have existed without this tag library. But also, you might be saying, well, what if I want to build my own functions to use in expressions? Well, that's a really great point, and you can actually do that. But in order to do that, we need to understand how to create our own custom tags. We'll get to that in the very next section. Let's go ahead and run this and see these functions that are given to us that are already predefined and included in the standard tag library in play. Let's go ahead and run this. And there you can see our function contains is going to contain powerful, contains JSTL, index of T is 2, the length is 21, JSTL from 8 to 23 equals very powerful, JSTL is very powerful lowercase, JSTL is very powerful uppercase. And so that wraps up our look at the Java standard tag library. Once again, throughout this section, we've covered all of the tag information for core, and we've looked very briefly at how we could use formatting SQL, XML, and now some functions.